at the top of the notes here, it says to be able to multiply matrices, the number of columns of the first matrix must be equal to the number of rows of the second matrix. So remember, when we give our dimensions of a matrix, we do the number of rows first and then the number of columns. So A is a 2 by 2 matrix. B is a 2 by 3 matrix. And then C would also be a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay? We do the number of rows first and then the number of columns. And so what this says is that to be able to multiply matrices, the number of columns of the first one has to match the number of rows of the second one. So what that means is if you write the dimensions, so like for this first one, A is 2 by 2 and B is 2 by 3, those middle numbers should match up. And your answer is actually going to be then the outside dimensions.
Oh.
So wait, can you say it one more time?
Yep, so if we would write out the dimensions of the first one, A is 2 by 2, and the dimensions of the second one is 2 by 3, the middle numbers need to match, and if they do, it's possible, and your answer will be the two outside numbers. So number one is possible, and we're going to expect to have a 2 by 3 matrix. I'm going to do it by hand to show you how it works by hand, but then I'm going to teach you how to do these on your calculator as well, and I expect you to do them on the calculator. You don't have to do these by hand, but I want to show you how it works to do these the long way. So what we do is, since it said the columns of the first have to match the rows of the second, the way it works is we're going to take the first row and multiply it by the first column of the other one. And so I'm going to do 7 times 3 plus 0 times 5. And all of that is my first entry. Then to get the lower entry, still in the first column, I'm going to do the lower row and still the first column. So 5 times 3 plus 3 times 5. Then to get the upper entry in the middle column, I'm going to take the upper row and multiply it by the middle column. 7 times negative 3 plus 0 times 4. And then to get the lower entry in the middle column, I'm going to take the lower row in the middle column. 5 times negative 3, 3 times 4.
Wait, your colors are all blending together at the top.
Just because we end up having to reuse the same things twice.
So for the green ones, where are you?
For the green ones, I use the upper row of the first one in the middle column of the second one, because it's the upper middle term that we're finding there. And so then for the last column, I'm going to use the last column. First row, I'll use the first row. So 7 times 6 plus 0 times negative 2.
Same exact thing.
Yep, same thing. So for that last one, it's going to be an upper right row. So I do the upper and the right. And then for the last one, it's a bottom, so I'm going to use the bottom and a right. So 5 times 6 plus 3 times negative 2. And that finishes it out. And then we can just do all the little arithmetics there to get 21, negative 21, 42, 30, negative 3, and 24. And that's our answer. So that's how it works. And I wanted to show you how it works, that we're taking a row times a column, and that's what multiplication is doing, is row times column, row times column. But this is a lengthy process, and I don't want you to do that for every problem. So one thing that can save you some time is thinking about those dimensions and deciding first if it's even going to be possible or not before we jump to our calculator. And then if it is going to be possible, then we can work it out on the calculator. So for number 2, B has dimensions of 2 by 3, and C has dimensions of 2 by 3. Those middle numbers don't match. This one's not possible.
How did you do that?
Our rule is that when we write out the dimensions of the first one and the second one, the middle 2 numbers need to match for it to be possible. That the columns of the first one have to be the same as the rows of the second one. So for number 3, A is 2 by 2 and C is 2 by 3. Those middle numbers match, so this one should be possible. And now we're going to look at how to enter this information into the calculator. So I have my handy little calculator on the screen here. To find it, thank you. To find it, where you go for this, from your home screen, just kind of the blank regular screen. The 4th button down says matrix above it in the yellow on mine. It might be blue on yours or something, but we're going to do second, and then that button that says matrix above it. And the first thing we need to do is enter our matrix data, and you do that under where it says edit. So I'm going to hit my over arrow until I get to where it says edit, and I'm going to start by editing A.
Well, what if, like, under C I have 3 times 4 and I don't know how to do it?
It doesn't matter. That just means that you already have a matrix actually entered in there, and we'll just overwrite it when we go to put in our C. So the first thing we want to do is put in the dimensions, and matrix A is a 2 by 2. So I'm going to hit 2, enter, 2, enter, and then I get this blank matrix. And I want to put our numbers in there. So I'm going to enter the data from matrix A, which is 7, 0, 5, 3. And your cursor is just going to stay on that last thing even after you hit enter. Just make sure that it does actually say that last 3 in there. So now I have matrix A entered in there. Now we need to do the same process to put in matrix C. So we're going to go second. Actually, and then instead of going into matrix C here, because I don't know if it'll overlap, I'm going to hit mode, which quits back to the home screen. And then from there, I'm going to go second, matrix. And now we can see A says 2 by 2 because we put information in there. So now that our A has been defined, I'm going to go down and define matrix C, since that's the one we want for this problem. And C is a 2 by 3. And so then we get our blank matrix. And if you had other information in there, you can just overwrite it. So when you go to do your homework problems, you can just overwrite all of these matrices and put in the new information. Okay, so get it all entered in there, and then make sure that cursor will stay on the last spot, but just make sure that if it says -1, it doesn't say 0 anymore. Alright, so then to actually make the calculator do the multiplication, once again I'm going to go back to the home screen, which I do by pressing second and then mode where it says quit, and that gets me back to the home screen. Then to actually work with our matrices. And you could do your addition and stuff in here as well. So the stuff that we learned in the last lesson you could do in here. I usually don't, just because I think it takes more time for me to enter stuff into the calculator than to just add them in my head. But you could. You could do any of your matrix arithmetic in here now. We're going to go second, matrix. And what I want to do is matrix A. So I'm going to choose matrix A by pressing enter. Times. So I press my multiply button. Second, go into our matrix stuff and choose matrix C. And hit enter. And it gives us our answer.
Hey, can I borrow a calculator for this class? My calculator just died.
Did we do this in algebra 2?
Woo!
It's not a part of our Algebra 2 curriculum here. Some schools do. We save it for
We should use the same
pre-calc.
set of data
Because
for
we
the
did this
homework.
all last year.
Okay.
Mine's not giving me a
Why?
quarter of the year last year.
Oh, wow.
Good idea. We should use the same set of data for the homework.
You use the same set of data for the homework as you used for the last homework, but not the same set as for the notes. Yes.
Mine's not giving me an answer. It's just going to like error. Can you not press enter? Okay, so it says it's not defined. So I'm gonna go to what's not defined. It says you have a defined matrix C. Right here. You didn't enter it. So here we go edit. And matrix C needs to be entered.
I did enter
Okay.
It just said error for that too, and then
When we talked about real numbers, and back when we talked about our our different number systems, we defined the operation as being commutative. Does anybody remember what commutative means?
both backwards and forwards.
It works backwards and forwards. Matrix multiplication is not commutative. So that means our very first question asks for A times B. Number 4 asks for B times A. They do not mean the same thing. Okay? So matrix multiplication does not work the same forward as it does backward because the dimensions matter. So for B times A, if I wanted to do B times A, matrix B is a 2 by 3, and matrix A is a 2 by 2. And then those middle values don't match, and so number 4 is actually not possible, even though number 1 was possible. So when you multiply matrices, the order matters. Matrix multiplication is not commutative.
No.
It's
not
working.
So.
I'll help you out with that in just a minute. We can figure out why it's not working. Yep.
So like for the homework, it says A times B and B times A.
They will not necessarily be the same.
Can you just multiply that though, like straight, like one times thing, like go right back and forth, or no? You have to do the calculator thing.
You'd have to either do the calculator thing or the way that we did number 1, where you're multiplying a row times a column. You can't just multiply a term by a term.
Gotcha.
So number 3 asks for A times C, and we did that on our calculator. Number 5 asks for C times A. So matrix C has dimensions of 2 by 3, and matrix A has dimensions of 2 by 2. Once again, those middles don't match, so it's not possible. And I want to show you what the calculator will do if you try to do something that's not possible on it. So since I already put A and C in here, I can just go now and tell it to do that arithmetic. And if I, calculator turn on, bring up matrix C and multiply that by matrix A, and then hit enter, you will get this error on your calculator. So if you get an error that says dim mismatch, that means it's actually not possible to do that the dimensions of the matrices aren't matching up the way they should. Okay? So if you get an error that says dim mismatch, that means that problem is actually not possible because the rows and columns aren't matching up appropriately. Okay? All right, that is the end of today's lesson. So homework 2 tonight.